So as from a goal standpoint, how many people want to lose 20 pounds? Raise your hands. Okay. How many people have diseases and maybe you're taking medications that you want to decrease the inflammation in your body, reverse that disease process, get off some of those medications? If possible, good. So there's a couple different goals. How many people want to just eat healthy for you and your whole family? There you go, so good. Note that 3/4 of our healthcare costs, I mean, how many people know they spend way too much on tax? Okay, well, most of your tax goes to healthcare, and 3/4 of that is spent on chronic, preventable, and reversible diseases. Top 5 are here: heart disease, cancer, diabetes, prostate and breast cancer, obviously, and obesity-related illnesses too.
With those 5 essentials, we can practically eliminate the causes of all these top 5 chronic diseases as well, and that's the amazing thing. And therefore, we do need a paradigm shift. So we ask you to have an open mind with some of the things. You're going to hear some things that are quite different. So have an open mind when you hear some of this information as well.
We went through this in the makeover, that your lifestyle determines your future. Dr. Dean Ornish, I'm not sure if you've ever heard his cookbook and eating plan, but it says studies have shown that change your lifestyle can prevent at least 90% of heart disease. So heart disease itself accounts for more premature deaths than in North Americans than any other illness, and is actually completely preventable and reversible if it's already began, just by changing your lifestyle. So I know a lot of people find, oh, you got heart disease or you get diagnosed with cancer. A lot of people feel those are sort of like a death sentence. But the reality is both of those, which are the top 2 preventable diseases, that are reversible even if you just change your lifestyle.
So again, now genetics versus environment. We often have the tendency to blame our family, or whatever happened to your parents, you usually think is going to happen to you, but research is showing otherwise. There's a huge Harvard study as well, about 7,000 articles compiled. They found that up to 90%, and this Time magazine says 80%, but up to 90% plus causes our lifestyle. So it's the decisions you make, it's what you're eating, it's how you're moving. These are the decisions that actually will change the outcome of what you're going to suffer from or not.
So heart disease, there's a death every 34 seconds in North America. Cancer deaths, 1,500 people die every day, and 3,400 are diagnosed every day. So, I mean, how many people have noticed that cancer all of a sudden, despite throwing piles and piles and billions of dollars in cancer research, it's not getting less, it's getting more, right? It used to be 1 in 12 back in 1950 that would get cancer in a lifetime. You know what it is now?
1 in 3?
Yeah, it's 1 in 3, and in the States it's 1 in 2. So, you know what? Though it's actually surpassed, as of 2005, it surpassed heart disease as the #1 killer. Not because there's less heart disease, there's just more what? Cancer. So there's more bad lifestyle. Every time you hear cancer, think bad lifestyle, because it's not something that's genetic. This shows obesity trends there. So what I've done here to make it visual for you, there's no data where you see the white. The shaded blue areas here, whatever I've got at the bottom in red is the most prevalent percent. So here, obesity, we're not talking about people who are overweight. Obesity means you got a body mass index of more than 30%, more than 30, or you're over 30 pounds, okay? So looking at this, the prevalence is about, say, 10, 14% of people were considered obese 20 years ago. Now watch how this changes. So we go 3 years later, all of a sudden there's more obesity, but there's also another cohort that started here. It's the 15 to 19%. So after 3 years, there's all these states here that are actually almost twice as obese 3 years later. So 1 year later, watch how it changes. So we're still at the most prevalent being 10 to 14% of people are obese. A year later, it's half the country. Now that 1 year later, it tips. Now it's 15 to 20% are obese. A couple years later, now there's another cohort of over 20% of the population being obese. It's just over a couple of years. 1 year later here, and now the trend 1 year later is now it's over 20%, and that spreads across the country from that southeast side. Now, the same state here, I don't know what state that is, I'm sure somebody can remember what that is, but that's the one that tends to be obese first. Now it's 25%, and that's spreading there 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, and a red one starts here over 30%. 2006, I think 2007 is the end. But I mean, It's ridiculous. So understanding that your body's built to move, and we have a very sedentary lifestyle. Your body's built to eat raw foods as close to the way they were designed as possible. You start adding things to them, taking things away from them, effectively processing them. What happens? You increase your risk of diseases across the board. So back to basics is ultimately the way that you're going to prevent those diseases. Who wants to live to 100? If you can live healthy to 100, who would want to? Okay, somebody like, yeah, no, I'm done. Get me out of here, right? The common denominator in those living successfully to 100 years of age, yes, there are exceptions, people who chain smoke and have shots of rye every day and they live to 100, but they're the exceptions, and they could probably live to 130 if they didn't do that, yes, okay, is no processed foods, especially sugar. If you do anything with the information we give you tonight, it's to reduce your intake of sugar.
The key to nutritional basics is that we usually have too much of a deficiency of the things that we actually need, and we have an overindulgence in things we don't need. So if you look at the calorie controversy, and this is a good example, we have almonds on the left, exact same amount of calories, with the Twinkie bar on the right. So it's pretty much void of any nutritional value on the right. In fact, it'll kill you if you continue, if that was the staple in your diet, because of the sugar and because of all the chemicals as well. So that gives you a little understanding of the quality of your nutrition is key.
For those of you who are trying to focus on weight loss, it's not about caloric restriction, although it's important to have your portion control, but your hormones very likely are out of balance. That's why you can sit down and sit down beside someone and they can down like a smorgasbord of food and they don't gain weight, and you can have a salad, you can put on 5 pounds. You hate that? That's because your hormones are messed up, and instead of being a fat burner like they are, they're burning their fat. You're a fat storer and a sugar burner. So the idea with the style of eating that you've just experienced, and again, quietly go grab some seconds if you like, return to natural foods, remove the toxic foods, some of the things we've talked about there, and allow your body to heal. Because the foods don't heal you, but your body heals itself, but you have to give it the right conditions, and good nutrients is a key component. So there's two plans. The core plan, the advanced plan. The core plan itself is basically just general nutrition. It's easy for families to adopt for weight loss or just maintaining your weight and for preventing disease. So that's kind of for everybody.
So the advanced plan is much more advanced. You're going to eliminate all sugars, you're going to eliminate all grains. So many people will say, how is that even possible? But we've survived tens of thousands of years without any of that. So a lot of people will say, I can't even do that. How is that humanly possible? But it is very possible. And this is the plan that you use for hormone repair. We'll have a list of all conditions that you should use this for. But this is where you dramatically will change those imbalances in the hormones that we talked about, in your leptin and your diabetes. You can reverse diabetes staying on this plan in a couple weeks, your blood sugar levels, dramatically.
So the advanced plan, there's a number of things written down here. High blood pressure. Maybe you take a look for things that, like where you appear here, or friends and family appear here. High blood sugar, high insulin, high leptin, ADHD, autism, cancer, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. A lot of these are inflammatory, degenerative issues, heart disease, digestive dysfunction, chronic ability to lose weight, or intolerance to grains and sensitivity there. So yeah, it's not easy to cut all grains out. It's not easy, and even on the advanced plan, you're going to cut a lot of fruit out because you want to just cut all sources of sugar out. And as extreme as it may sound, the results will be that extreme also. And then the idea is that once you've handled a lot of your issues, which might take months if things are quite severe, or may even take a year or two, who knows, you can gradually move back to a core maintenance plan if you need to. But the alternate is staying on the medications for what? The rest of your, absolutely, the rest of your life.
So are you a fat burner or a sugar burner? So this is what we referred to earlier. So based on the hormone balance, most of us are sugar burners. We're not fat burners. And it's due to this insulin insensitivity and leptin insensitivity. These receptors are just burned out. So we just rely on sugar for energy. And those are, when you got a candy bar and you feel like you're in a low and you just need that snack to keep you going for the next little bit, and then you snack on something else. and your body actually has forgotten how to burn fat. So you're always relying on sugar for that next little peak or that next little craving to be satisfied. And those, often you will plateau when you are quote unquote dieting or even when you're applying anything. And these are the challenges as well. With the burst training, so combining essential number 3 with essential number 4, this is where you can dramatically create some changes in here as well.
Okay, so being a fat burner, that's where you're actually relying on fat for energy. Any stores of fat that you got, you're going to mobilize. And who wants to mobilize their fat and get it out of their body and start using it? That's pretty important. It's good to cycle that fat out of your body. And the thing is, what you'll learn today too is you need to put good fat in to cycle the old fat out. And that helps. There's ways to get the toxins out of your body too. So burning fat is important, and you actually extract more energy from less food when you're actually eating this way. And it'll help you lose weight on pretty much any diet because your hormones are working the way they're designed to.
So if you're a sugar burner, your body doesn't burn fat properly, we said that, and it requires sugar. So your brain has 2 choices. You're either going to burn some muscle, which is not what we want. Muscle is the only metabolic tissue that actually burns calories, if we're talking simple calories. So you actually, with the burst training, we actually want to surge training, we want to increase our muscle mass. Because when you're idle, you're just resting, you're actually burning calories. You're consuming calories. So what we want to do is decrease, you don't want to lose weight, you want to decrease body fat. That's why we do, if anybody signed up for the 40-day challenge, we actually do body fat analysis. And then at the end of your 40 days, again, we're going to check your body fat relative to your muscle. And if you've applied these principles, we're going to see your muscle mass increase and your body fat. So sometimes, even though your overall weight's about the same, as long as that balance has changed, that's exactly what we want.
The average North American, get this, 53 teaspoons of sugar a day. That's on average. That means some people are taking way more. So how could they be taking in that much?
So sugar is cheap, very, very cheap and addictive. So manufacturers, this is their favorite product. You know, they can apply this, but it's the #1 risk factor for diabetes, coronary heart disease, cancer. So you can, that's why it's all over every single product. It's almost, it is challenging. You have to be a very smart consumer to look for things that actually don't have sugar. That's what we're going to teach you today.
Okay, so I think you probably get that pop's not healthy, right? So, but what's arguably more unhealthy than pop is diet pop. Okay, we're going to talk about that because, well, you know what? See the people who have the burger and, well, I'll have the diet pop, right? And so they have some obesity issues. That's not fooling anyone. But pop makes up 10 to 50% of a teenage girl's caloric intake, which is pretty sad. But how many people have juice regularly in their house? Because, you know, fruit's healthy, right? So fruit juice must be healthy because it's made from fruit. Well, the problem is juice itself has more sugar in it than pop. So as bad as pop is, juice is worse. So there's nothing wrong with fruit. And, you know, I guess if you have some fresh, like if you squeeze your own juice and stuff, and it's not from concentrate, and you're having some protein with it to buffer that so it gets absorbed slowly, it's probably fine. But you're knocking juice back. You can take in so many calories so darn quick just drinking juice, thinking, oh, it's healthy, you know, but it's all sugar. High fructose corn syrup. How many people have heard of that term before? Now, this is something worth hitting the pause button and understanding. It's the #1 source of sugar. It's got more calories than sugar. In 1966, there was 0 intake of high fructose corn syrup, and it's gone up to 63 pounds per person. That was 2001. That was 10 years ago. You want to believe it's probably double that by now.
So it's from corn. So corn is the #1 source of sugar right now. You can almost, it is very challenging to find something that doesn't have high fructose corn syrup, or there's a bunch of names that are used instead of high fructose corn syrup that we're going to teach you. So when you're looking at your products, you can actually identify them on the labels as well.
So corn, I mean, how many people, veggies are important, yes? Right, so you eat your veggies, you think, well, corn is a vegetable, so eating corn is like eating carrots or something. So corn has very few minerals and nutrients that, I mean, it's pretty much just carbohydrate. If you eat a cob of corn, that's fine. There's really nothing wrong with eating it. It doesn't have a huge nutrient value, but the amount of carbohydrates you get in high fructose corn syrup is like eating miles of corn here. We're going to talk about corn in a sec. Corn basically equals sugar. It's a cheap source. It's the #1 source of sugar. It used to be cane sugar, now it's from corn. And we said high fructose corn syrup is more potent than sugar. And it's in pretty much everything. If you start reading the ingredient labels, and they're given fancy names and stuff, it's in your yogurts, your soups, you know, you try to make some healthy choices. Like, okay, well, I'll have yogurt, that's a healthy choice, right? We already talked about how fruit juice I'll have some soup. I mean, some things you might think, okay, well, you know what? People kind of know lunch meats, but did you know that they're not healthy because of nitrates? Did you know that there's sugar in those? That there's sugar. Well, people know there's sugar in ketchup, but your salad dressings, you know, there's hidden sugars, and they're hidden because of their name too. Glucose, sucrose, fructose sounds good because it's from fruit, right? So that would be healthy, right? Well, in the absence of fiber, that would be naturally in the fruit, it gets metabolized right away. Other things like honey. Well, honey's good. It's natural, right? Maple syrup, maple sugar. Those things, again, they behave the same way as simple sugars in your body. And then there's the corn ones. The corn ones are hidden even more so. Corn syrup. I mean that's something you can kind of see, recognize that as a sugar as you go. High fructose corn syrup is even worse. But these three here, how many people have ever probably read that? You didn't know what it was. Dextrose, xanthan gum, maltodextrin. It's corn-based sugar. Okay, so it's just like saying sugar, corn sugar. And we do want to look at nutrition facts. It's important. And roughly, the closer you can get a 1-to-1 protein to carb ratio, the better. So let's look at protein first. Always look at protein first. So if you protein, 2 grams of protein. And now you get a reference point. Now you look at your total carbs, 27. So there's over 10 times as many carbs as protein. Is that 1-to-1? No. So you know what? The reason proteins or dietary fibers, which doesn't help out much, that's one. Those slow down the absorption of sugars by your body. So if you did have 30 carbs going in, but you had 30 grams of carb going in, but you also had 30 grams of protein, your body can kind of deal with that because it's going to take some time to digest the protein or the fiber. It's going to slow the metabolism down, so you can probably handle that. But when you have over 10 times the ratio, you get into trouble. So what are some of the options? Okay, so xylitol, stevia are substitutes for sugar.
Stevia is 300 times sweeter than sugar, and it's a herb, and it's natural. It doesn't raise your blood sugar. It's a good alternative. If you use too much, as some will learn, it actually is bitter. So xylitol is often a better tasting option. Xylitol is a sugar alcohol. Okay, so this is a combination to make chocolate, because cocoa is great. There's a lot of good health benefits, but if you buy it organic, unsweetened, and then you add something like stevia or xylitol, you can have something that tastes fantastic. If you've tried the almond bars have a chocolate coating on top, and this is a combination that we'll use. That's a healthy alternative to use as well. But yeah, you have to be careful with some of the fillers or the additives that are placed as well. You have to identify and be a smart consumer, because they will add high fructose corn syrup or corn derivatives to even some of these healthy natural products that we're telling you to consume.
So artificial sweeteners. People, raise your hand if you know aspartame is toxic. So if you're having Diet Coke, it's sweetened with aspartame. Just because, okay, I like putting hands up. Raise your hand if you understand that Health Canada and the FDA doesn't got your back. Because if you think that they got your back, that's a lot of trust you're putting in them. Because this has been approved, and aspartame is stable. It's been approved since the 80s. It's stable at room temperature, but guess what happens when you put it in your body? You heat it up, it breaks down, dissociates into methanol and formaldehyde. They embalm corpses with formaldehyde. And they're both toxic, proven carcinogens.
So many believe that Splenda is a much healthier alternative because it's actually a derivative of sugar. But there's very, very little research to actually support this. And what we do is actually chlorinate, or we use chlorine. And who thinks chlorine's healthy to consume? So we're using a series of reactions with chlorine to clean up that sugar so that we can actually have this product.
So there's 5 principles we went through about maximized living. From a nutrition standpoint, the first was to remove bad fats and add good fats. We'll talk about that a little bit. Second was to reduce, or if you're in the advanced plan, to actually completely eliminate sugars. And modify, reduce, or again, advanced plan, eliminate grains. We'll talk about that. Avoid toxins, also eating lots of vegetables, and very little or no fruit if you're on the advanced plan, because that's a source of sugar. So white foods are an issue. So there's components to a grain here, wheat germ. So there's the endosperm, the white component, and the bran, and the germ. Okay, so when you have white breads, white rice, white pasta, this is removed. That's where all the nutrients are. This is all the carb. So it's like straight sugar. So and what are the grains that you use in the core plan? We want you to have whole, sprouted, or stone ground. And they have Ezekiel cereals also. And alternate grains for some people who have sensitivities or you actually want to get away from wheat. We got spelt, kamut, millet, oats, brown rice, quinoa.
So we actually had a question about the flax meal crackers and how those are on the advanced plan. And this is exactly why. These are some replacements actually for carbohydrates. So again, a lot of good baking options are almond flour, nut flours, and coconut flour is a great option. And the flax meal, you can actually sprinkle a little bit of flax meal within some of these flours as well. And the chickpea flour as well.
So, Mythbuster, fat makes you fat. Reality is fat doesn't make you fat. The inability to burn fat, which back to leptin hormone insensitivity, is what, for energy, is what makes you fat. Healthy fats help your body to burn fat. So if you're not taking in healthy fats, how can you shed the toxic fats? And the damaged fats and sugar is what makes you fat.
70% of our brain tissue is actually fat. So think about that.
So if 70% of your brain tissue is fat and you starve your body of that fat, what's going to happen to the integrity of your nerve system, your brain tissue? And it's going to increase what kind of diseases?
Fat cow.
Neurological?
Neurological, like what? Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, related to low-fat diets. The whole low-fat cholesterol thing is related to this. The same problem. Some of the bad fats, rancid fats, refined vegetable oils, cottonseed oil, these are things you never want to consume. And you probably have them in your pantry right now. I mean, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil. It's in everything. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make your life difficult. Just increase your awareness. And most vegetables. And
So why, you might wonder why these are fat. They're fat because they become rancid. Okay, they can become rancid, and when they become rancid, they lose their good properties. Some of these oils might be actually good, but they actually become rancid. And this process occurs in the manufacturing, and it also occurs when they're exposed to air, light, and increases in temperature. So some oils, we might actually tell you that they're good, but don't cook with them. Okay, so you can actually consume them, but you damage them as soon as you expose them. If you leave them out on the shelf and expose them to sunlight, they'll start to break down and become rancid, and when they're rancid, that's when they cause increase in inflammation and a bunch of other issues related with cardiovascular disease.
Most people know about the issues of trans fats. We talked about how butters are a much better option and tastier option, to be honest, than margarines and synthetic butters. And fats in grain-fed meat. All good fats aren't altered by man. Things that are in their original state: extra virgin olive oil,
Avocados, avocado oil, coconut, this will be a surprise for many, coconut and coconut oil, raw nuts and seeds in their oils, hemp seeds, real butter, and raw is best, but not available. Raw cheese, same thing, not available. Eggs, and then fatty fish. You heard of omega-3 again. Those are great fats. They're actually anti-inflammatory fats. So the omega-3s are the ones you want, and that's consuming fish, and fish oil supplements are probably one of the better forms to get it if it's a good source.
How many people have been told saturated fats to limit your saturated fats to cut back on that, right? So if you limit your saturated fats, you limit the food for your brain. That's the one system that controls everything, heals for all our patients here, we know that. So you need it for membrane function. It's antiviral. It's a preferred fuel for your heart. It's anti-cavity, anti-plaque, antifungal. It lowers your bad cholesterol, prevents the oxidation of cholesterol. I'll say that one again because we're saying is that eating fat, saturated fat, prevents heart disease. So is that opposite of what you've heard? This is not our opinion. Google it, check it out. It's all over the web because there's a ton of medical research to back that up.
For centuries, this staple of any tropical diet has been used for far more than cooking and eating. But is coconut oil really a miracle food? I want to teach you about coconut oils because they've gotten a bad rap. But there's a lot about coconuts that I love. So come on over for 1 second. Come over this side. We're going to talk under the palm tree here.
Okay.
So a couple things about coconuts that people don't realize. One, it's hard at room temperature. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
When you heat it, it does become soft. Now I want you to close your eyes. Go behind under the palm tree here. And just imagine you're on a tropical island. Where would you be?
Jamaica.
Jamaica. Who would you be with? Would I be there? All right. So let's turn behind you and go ahead. We got this coconut here, so let's pull that off for you. Go ahead and open that up and reveal the first of the health benefits of coconuts.
Open it.
She's right. See, we're getting around. Here, let's try this. Hey, we have a hammer. There we are. Open it up and see what's in there. Let's see what it says. The first of the health benefits of coconuts. This is the one you're going to care about a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It is weight loss. It helps you lose weight. So if I opened your kitchen cabinet at home, what kind of oils would I see in the pantry?
Olive oil.
If I had to compare coconut oil to olive oil, which do you think is healthier?
Probably coconut.
Why? Just because I asked it?
Because we're on this show talking.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think it's... You're a smart woman coming from Texas. But here's the deal. 119 calories and 13 grams of fat per tablespoon for both of them. There's no difference. And so when we think about one of them being better than the other, we already think that, revisit that. From a pure calorie consumption perspective, it's not there. Coconut oil has a bad rap because it's saturated, because it's hard at room temperature. But the scientific research on this is changing all that we know about coconut oil. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Come on over here. When you have fat, because you had a steak, as an example, you end up with these large chain fatty acids. It's just a big molecule. All right? When you have it from coconut oil, they're medium chain. They're short, itty-bitty little things. So go ahead and pour that in here. When you pour in the medium chain fatty acids, the body dissolves it into the blood. Not a big deal. The medium-sized fatty acids, we can mix this up a little bit. You'll see, you can't tell they're there anymore. Now, look what happens if you add large chain fatty acids. The body doesn't dissolve it quite well. It doesn't go right to the liver. And because of that, go ahead and pour it in there. Because of that, very different things happen. With large chain fatty acids, instead of being dissolved and going right to the liver and being metabolized, it gets sent out to the periphery. These long chain fatty acids, they'll actually make you fat. Can you all see that there? This stuff is really gooey in there. See that now? Make sense? I don't want that in your blood. Oh my goodness, this has really got hard. Now, let's reveal the second tip that I'm going to talk about today, the second benefit of coconut oil. So the first was weight loss. The second is, here we are. Okay, may I pull it down for you?
Sure.
Since we're on the tropical island
Right
together.
ahead.
Go ahead and open this one up. Let's see how this one works. Go ahead. Oh, I like that. She's good at this. You're good at... Oh my goodness. There we are.
I'm really here, huh?
You are right here.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
You care. What do you guys think about it? It treats skin conditions. Take some of this oil that you had before and put it on your hands. Just a little bit. And describe it to everybody. What do you think about that?
Wow. It's squeaky.
Isn't it? It's
Yeah.
cool. It's been used for centuries for that purpose. And you know what? It works. It helps dry and irritated skin. If you've got eczema or psoriasis, which looks like this, it can help with it dramatically. If you've got different kinds of ailments of your skin you're not sure about, one of the first things I'll often do, if I think it's not an allergy, is just sort of soothe it with coconut oil. And look at this. Can I show it to everybody? You know, it actually glistens it up a little bit. You got to wipe it off a tiny bit, but it's inexpensive and easy to do. New research has shown there's something called lauric acid inside of coconut oil also fights off fungal infections. So if you get a fungus infection like this, you'll actually often end up with a quick solution that's inexpensive. And it makes me excited because it means lauric acid can work in other places as well. Instead of using other kinds of medications, I can resort to this as my resort. Okay, ready for the third one?
Yeah.
Okay, come on over here. You pull it down this time. You're getting good at this.
Okay.
Ooh. Oh, getting stronger, too. Getting stronger.
Okay, let's see.
Now, yeah, we talked about the benefits with killing bugs, but it treats ulcers because we know that oftentimes ulcers are caused by bacteria. What causes stress in your life?
My kids.
Your kids? Yeah. So ulcers aren't just from your kids. They're not just from the stress in your life. They are from these bacteria, H. pylori. And these things are getting progressively more resistant to bacteria. They're there. See the H. pylori? And they're bad players. And you can use lauric acid, and new research has shown this and borne this out, to kill off the H. pylori, which is why coconut oil might be beneficial in helping us resist some of these basic infections and issues that afflict us day in and day out. Try 1 tablespoon a day. Simple amount. You can make them part of the food that you eat. So what do you think?
I think it's pretty good.
You want to take some coconuts home with you, Donna?
I sure will.
It has been an honor, a real pleasure to have you on.
Last thing is toxins. The Food and Drug Administration has approved about 3,000 chemical food additives and 10,000 solvents, emulsifiers, and preservatives. The average person ingests 150 pounds of additives every year. So if you don't think you're already ingesting it, think again. Strawberry milkshake, there's no strawberries and there's no milk in this product. Those are the ingredients.
Look how many ingredients in a strawberry milkshake.
Lunchables. How many kids? How many people know kids who get Lunchables? It's quick, it's cheap, it's easy. I got 5 kids. Trust me, if I could, I would have them have Lunchables. But I don't. The reason I don't, they want them. They're like, oh, Dad, buy that's cool because we get it. The other kids get it. My kids think they're like deprived. So Dad gives us this sprouted whole grain stuff with this, you know, roast beef carved on it and whatever.
So if this is a good market too, imagine how many kids are eating this. 22% of their sales, Oscar Mayer sales, that's a $500 million industry.
Just on
the Lunchables
alone. Okay, so do they want the information we have tonight getting out there? There are huge pressures against this information getting out. That's why it's not out there. There's big bucks on the other side. And he's smiling, he's happy, but if he's even eating this stuff, it's toxic, right? This is what's in it. And we've just highlighted some of the things. Let's read the highlights. Sugar-free strawberry gelatin, artificially flavored, sodium citrate, there's aspartame in there, soybean, those toxic oils, toxic fats.
So one thing to learn from just looking at that briefly is try to limit the actual ingredient content. Like, all you want is a couple of ingredients max. When you see hundreds of ingredients, you know that it's full of chemicals.
MSG, you guys have heard about that. It's not just in Chinatown either. It's an excitotoxin. It's highly allergic. It mimics symptoms of multiple sclerosis, and it's hidden in foods with the words hydrolyzed and autolyzed. If you've ever read labels, you see that on there. Take a look. It's actually in snack chips. Take a look. Some coffees have it in there. Those coffees that are flavored coffees. Deli meats have it in there. It creates all these poisoning symptoms. So your depression might be related to your diet. And so imagine people, #1 prescribed medication in North America is antidepressants. If some of it has to do with people, what they're putting into their body, how simple is it to remove that? Pesticides, 3 million tons of pesticides every year put in. More than 1,000 chemicals are used in food production. And most haven't been tested. Again, back to trust. If you think that just because it's on the market and it's available to you in the grocery store, it's been tested, it's safe, think again. Linked to all these different cancers and disorders. Nitrates, people have heard of the dangers of that. Again, nitrates give that red color to packaged deli meats.
So your bacon, your pepperoni, your salamis, everything has nitrates in them. We know that causes a lot of digestive cancers.
So that's just one thing to look at. If you can try to find stuff that's nitrate free, that's going to be important for you to decrease your risk of pancreatic.
They are available now. With less sodium and nitrate-free options are a better option. So our goal today as well is to make you a more informed consumer. And if you take anything home, you're going to avoid what? Sugar. And then you can start working on some of the others. Picking up the book is a great option as well. The Maximize Living Nutrition Plan. The Advanced Plan is more, it's called Advanced because it is quite advanced. It will be a challenge. At the very minimum, consider starting the core, which is the core plan, which is a little easier and more palatable, but you will really change your health if you adopt that diet.
If we didn't tell you this information, how would you get it? Is your family doctor telling you this? My wife was a registered dietitian for 15 years. They weren't teaching this, so I know the dietitians aren't teaching you this. But for those of you, give yourself a round of applause for showing up. We said 90% of success